This segment of the Bass Kayak and Beers podcast is supported in part by Douglas Outdoors, serious rods for serious anglers. Go to douglasoutdoors.com and check out their new lineup of Era rods that retail under $100. Norsk Lithium, the lithium battery that you need is just a click away. Go to norsklithium.com and check out some of the lightest lithium batteries in the market with the best warranty in the business. Mariner Sales, located in the heart of the DFW Metroplex, Mariner Sales has the largest inventory of kayak and kayak accessories in North Texas. You can also shop online at marinersales.com.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome once again to the Real Life, the Bass Kayak and Beers podcast. This is the first episode, first live show of the season. We're going to have a huge giveaway tonight. So a little bit more details of the giveaway in a few minutes. But anyways, let's welcome in my guest host for today. Not special guest, but guest host, Kurt Smitty Smiths. What's up, Kurt? How you doing?
Good, man. Good. How about yourself?
Pretty good, man. I'm dealing with some, I don't know if it's bronchitis or what. It's kind of weird. Usually when I have chest congestions, it starts off with like allergy, sinus pressure, then it, kind of goes down as, in a few days. And all of a sudden it'll end, with chest congestions. But this morning I woke up and I don't feel sick. I don't have any fever, but my chest is super congested. I don't know why, but I can tell it's not allergy. So that's kind of what worries me right now.
Yeah, there's some funk going around.
Yep. Oh, we got on the comment section, Drew Gregory. Let's go. Two of the best right here tonight. Appreciate you guys' coverage of the sport. Drew, thank you so much. Drew, I don't know if you noticed, Drew, on our stories today. And for those that are watching, the first episode of the Advanced Kayak Angler with your co-host right here, Kurt Smith, aired today. Great panel of guests, and they did talk about tournament fishing, and they had, especially Jody Quinn, has some great things to say about the Kayak Adventure Series. So for you guys and girls out there that are looking to get into tournament fishing, maybe that's part of your New Year's resolution, get more into tournament fishing, go check out that episode. The guys talk about Team Kayak Series. Well, actually, you know what, Kurt? Tell us a little bit about that episode for those that haven't listened to it yet.
Yeah, man, we really went over pretty much everything that's happening on the national scene. Kayak, Drew's series. We talked about Bassmaster. We talked about KBF. We talked a little bit about Hobie not being around. And we just talked about some other options that are out there and how much fun people were having at Drew's series. And the overall feedback on his series alone was really positive, because it's something a little different. It's serious, but it's also family oriented, and throw the team stuff in there. So it's a really interesting combo of stuff going on, and he's doing stuff differently. The Friday, Saturday deal where it's half the day set Friday, full day Saturday. That's a little different.
Yeah. I mean, with the Hobie BOS, not running here in 2025, I think it's a great opportunity. I feel like corporate management, in corporate companies now, when you screw up on something, they always say, you have a great opportunity. Which means you screwed up. But anyways, I feel like I'm being corporate right now when I say we have a great opportunity. But truly, it's a great opportunity for some of these national trails that are up and coming in the last few years, like the Kayak Adventure Series and the native, oh my God, Big Bass Power.
Yep.
Big Bass Power Hour. No Limit Big Bass Power Hour.
No Limit Big Bass Power.
That's another one of those trails that puts the fun in tournament fishing, just like the Kayak Adventure Series. Team Kayak Series, I'm interested to get thoughts on Dan Perry, who's in the back room. Dan is going to be our special guest for the day. I know he was the MVP of KBBT, or no, not KBBT, KBL, Kayak Bass League, which was one of the first ones to come up with that tournament style. So I'm interested to get his thoughts on the Team Kayak series. I actually like the KBL. I never took part of it. I know me and Dan have talked about it, and I would have loved to do it for one season at least, because as Dan was telling me, it's the amount of information you get, and the improvements on your own game when you are, with five other teammates, fishing, and you're working together to one common goal. Knowledge is shared, and iron sharpens iron kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I'm really interested in that. Another comment here from Drew Gregory says, gonna be an epic year. I fly. What is it? I fly.
He's saying
I fly out. No.
Fly out to Bassmaster
Oh,
House
yeah.
in less than a week.
Yeah. So, by the way, next week
Down there, honestly. I thought Drew was already down there. I talked to him on the phone today.
Oh yeah.
He was like, "I'm pulling in to get something to eat." I thought he was down there, like, pre-fishing or something.
So on that note, next week we'll have from Lake Havasu, we're gonna have Steve Owens, who's gonna talk about the Bassmasters Kayak Series for 2025, and then hopefully either the week after that or at some point in February, Drew Gregory is gonna be on the show to talk about the Kayak Adventure Series, which he loves to talk about. So we're going to do our best to pump that. I'm really excited for the Kayak Adventure Series coming into Texas this year. This might be the only national tournament that I fished this year. So we'll see. Anyways, without further, before we bring in Dan Perry, for those that are watching, by the way, let me log into Instagram, because I know there might be some people watching on Instagram. I want to make sure I get their comments in as well. So whether you're watching on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, we are going to have a giveaway tonight. We're giving out a LRS or Douglas rods. They're from their LRS lineup. Their lineup is that the LRS, it's kind of like the middle of the road lineup. The Era rods are like the entry-level rods, which sell for under $100. LRS rods are kind of like the mid-level rods. Those sell between $100 and $200. And then they also got the X Matrix lineup, which is their tournament rods. Amazing rods. I love the X Matrix lineup. I love all of the rods, but we're going to be giving out an LRS rod from Douglas Outdoors. And the good thing is you can pick one out of the inventory. If you do win, I'll send you the list of the inventories of the LRS rods, and you can pick and choose which one you want. It's one out of maybe like 20 different models or something like that. So you get to pick and choose. You can also let me know exactly what kind of rod you're looking for, and I can tell you, I can make recommendations, but you will have from one out of maybe 20 rods to choose from. We're also going to be giving out a $50 gift card for Mariner Sales. If you don't live in Texas, not a problem. You can purchase online. Mariner Sales, honestly, I think they have the biggest inventory of kayak and kayak accessories. I say in North Texas, but really when you look at their website, they have, they're not just dealer for one specific brand. Like they have Jack Gadgets, Ram mounts, Yak Attacks, catch boards, catch products, Yak Power, FPV, and whatever company out there that makes kayak accessories, for both the electronic side or for mounts on your kayak, for any type of kayak. I mean, go check out Mariner Sales. The prices are going to be competitive, and it's going to be like hard to find accessories. You're going to have a $50 gift card if you win, and you can shop online. And we're also going to be giving out some catch boards from Catch Outdoors. So without further ado, let's bring in our special guest for today, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Dan Perry. How you doing, Dan?
I'm special. I'm a special guest.
Oh, by the way, to enter the giveaway, just put hashtag giveaway on the comments. If you can't stick around to the end of the podcast, that's fine. You don't have to stick around to the end of the podcast, although we would love it if you do. But do hashtag giveaway And at the end, we'll pick the winners. If I can't get enough people doing hashtags or in the comment section, it is the first episode of the season, so the attendance might be a little bit low. Then, we'll do it again next week. But anyways, Dan, sorry, I cut you right in the middle of the intro. How you doing, buddy?
Okay. What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Man, I'm doing good. How about yourself, bud?
Good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, man. Welcome to 2025.
Yeah.
Dan,
y'all have any good resolutions this year?
Well, we're going to talk about that. But first of all, I know you said that you didn't want us to make a big deal out of it, but we're going to kind of make it a big deal out of it if we can. First of all, Dan, how long have you been doing? I know you took a step away halfway through the year last year, but how long have you been previous to that doing podcasts for kayak fishing?
2018, I think.
2018, so like 5 years, right?
Yeah, it was either the beginning of 2019 or the end of 2018.
That's probably as most as anybody has done it.
Well, KBN, Brian was Schiller.
Yeah,
he was doing it, and then Brad Hicks and Sam Jones, they were doing the show I went on, the Reel Down, and then Brad left. He went to do his own show on Paddle and Fin as well, and then I took over. But yeah, I had only been kayak fishing a couple of years at that point, but I just love to talk fishing. So yeah, I told Brian if he ever had an opening, let me know. And before too long, he let me know. He was like, "Yeah, I got an opening." I was like, "Let's go."
That's awesome, man. How does it feel now that you kind of like step away? Do you miss it?
No. No, I mean, really, it's like it's one of those things where, I miss talking fishing all the time, but at the same time, you got to figure, even before I was kayak fishing, I was a president on the team at the University of Montevideo, who's like back to back national champs now, but we were always top 15, we didn't get scholarships to fish back then. So I was doing that from 2012. So it's been like 14 years of like obsessive fishing and just really being totally 100% ate up with it. So to kind of take a step back the last few months is, it's been good. It's been needed, I think.
Have you done any fishing lately? Like, have you?
Yeah.
I know you stepped away from the kayak podcast, but the kayak fishing itself. Have you done a lot of it since you stepped away from the podcast?
No, but I'm going to be. I'll be fishing here soon. I haven't fished for a few months. The kid, he did, and a lot of the big point. The reason I'm stepping out is because the kid, he's doing travel sports so much that, I only get 15 vacation days a year, and I'm lucky I have it. That doing travel sports, it's just going to burn up my vacation time. Yeah, I want to be there for everything now. I kind of knew this was coming. So for me, it was like, he's only, how many years am I going to have him here that,
Take advantage of it now, man.
Yeah, I mean, in a few years, I'm sure I'll be back at it whenever he doesn't care or want me at anything, Get out of here,
they hit a teenager, right?
Yeah,
and they're like, "No, Dad, I don't want to hang out with you."
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very short window that, so I'll be back ate up with it before long, but I'm still going to fish like local stuff,
And out of the podcasts have you done, which one sticks out, of a memorable one for you as far as something, a podcast that an episode that you were really proud of, that you felt like, man, was a good show?
I did one, like, I never got, because wife and kid working a lot. Like I didn't start this whenever I was really young. So I never had the opportunity to just live it 24/7. Like some people have the opportunity to do, but so I always felt like I'm just kind of person, like I need to have something going on. Like my head, I have to have something to think about other than serious stuff, just for my life, like, or I just kind of spin out of control. My brain always has to be focused on something, and I knew I wasn't able to fish as much as some other people, so learning from the podcast was a big deal for me. And then also, I knew, like, I was always going to be more prepared once I did hit the water than anybody else. I felt like that's something I could do. Like, whether it's tackle or anything else, everything was going to be perfectly organized, ready, all techniques, like what soft plastics went with what different techniques, how many I could overlap. And I used to do it all on a spreadsheet. And I did a show with Sean Lavery, which I don't like that guy, but I did a show with him, and I told everybody, I was like, I have a spreadsheet of every bait that I carry. That's taken me years to do this, and if anybody wants it, let me know. And it's funny how a podcast becomes, like a YouTube channel and a podcast kind of become a library of information that people, they still go back on it. And for years, I would get somebody email me, "Hey man, can I get that spreadsheet?" Yeah, it's probably been 6 months since I've had anybody do it, but man, all the time people would be asking, "Can I get that spreadsheet?" So I think that one thing I'll probably help more people, because his show was for beginner kayak fishing, beginners. So I think I probably help more people doing that one show and send that spreadsheet out to a lot of people, help them kind of fast track more than anything else I've done with a podcast. So that one really sticks out for me, which was also the reason why I wanted, was kind of the spark for Advanced Kayak Angler, which was the opposite of that, because there was always, as that show was tailored to beginners. And then, like, I would watch Scott Martin Challenge, or I'd watch all these other shows, and the information was always so basic that I didn't want basic information. I wanted like real deal, hardcore anglers, the people that are really into it, like the details. There are always less people at the top of the pyramid that are really into it than there are people at the bottom. Like, there's always a lot more people who in the sport who are newer than at the top of the pyramid. Not that I'm on top, but there's less people who have been in it for a long time. So yeah, I kind of wanted a show that was really like just for the people who are really into it,
Got comments from better than getting those nitty gritty details.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times listening to the podcast, being on the podcast, where someone said something, man, and I was just like, "What? Yeah. Say that one more time." It just made stuff click for a bait that maybe I wasn't particularly, great with.
And you really want guests to be open and to give you a lot of information, but at the same time, I fished a lot of tournaments where I would go back and look for podcasts on who had a podcast on that body of water. And I would, just like watching any YouTube thing on that body of water, I listened to every podcast where they were talking about tournaments. So yeah, I definitely got a lot out of it. It definitely helped,
Yeah, I think that's why I started the podcast. It was more to help myself, talk to people about, about kayak bass fishing, and then that in turn helping me by listening to them, having a real conversation. I've said this on the podcast before, but I remember back before I joined Paddle and Fin. Well, first of all, the very first podcast that I ever listened to was when you were on the Reel Down, when you were the host of the Reel Down, and Paddle and Fin. I can't exactly remember what the subject matter was, but that's what really got me into tournament fishing. But later on, when I started the podcast, I actually had you as a guest before I moved to Paddle and Fin. And we were talking about fishing in ledges. And I remember recording that. I don't listen to my episodes once I record it. We already had the conversation. Why would I listen to it? But the day after we recorded the next day. I got up early and went to fish Ray Roberts, which was my plan. I was pre-fishing for a tournament. But I started listening. I was like, you know what? Let me listen to that podcast to kind of like go over what I talked to Dan about, and you were giving tips on, fishing deep ledges. And I started fishing on grass and anything. I wasn't having much luck, but then I decided to, on my way, to pick up a couple of things that you mentioned, and I started fishing on deep ledges. And sure enough, my PB was on a technique was with a chatterbait and 1 1/4 ounce chatterbait, black and blue, with a Seiko trailer. Yeah, on like 20 feet, fishing on deep ledges, which is what exactly you were talking about. So it does help. Like, to me, I'm proof that it helps. I mean, to this day, that's still my PB. It was almost 23 inches. So that's one thing that I will never forget. And I felt very fortunate, very lucky that once I left Paddle and Fin and went back doing the podcast, you had already left Paddle and Fin for whatever reason. And then I was like, well, maybe Dan wants to come, because I know you wanted to do some other things that whatever that dynamic was in Paddle and Fin, you were not free to do. And I was like, I'm going to offer this opportunity. And sure enough, you came in and you did what you wanted to do, which is do a teaching video instead of just covering tournaments the whole time. So thank you, because you made this podcast better than it is.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
And I know there's a ton of people out there that you've helped out.
I like being a teacher for what I can, and really like doing the old show on Paddle and Fin where it was just tournaments. It really, like with that show, it really felt like just giving anglers an opportunity to shine. You know what I mean? Like, and that to me is what that show was. I mean, it was getting out information and I was learning at the same time, but a lot of it was just this sport. It was growing. It was before the like real growth. And it was just like, man, just, this is an opportunity for everybody to shine. Because even KBN, and there was some, Scott Butcher was doing his thing. He was doing tournament stuff. I mean, there's the internet.
The weigh-in. That was one of the OGs, the weigh-in by Scott Butcher.
Yeah. The internet is littered with podcasts that have failed.
Oh, it is.
It's not that a podcast is hard to do or that you have to be good at it, because I'm proof of that. You just have to do it every week. You know what I mean?
You have to be consistent. Yeah, and not to say Scott Butcher podcast was not good. It was Butcher was one of the best. Yeah. He just decided to say, but he was one of the best. KBN. There was the first, and it wasn't the first one that I listened to, but after after finding Paddle and Fin, I found KBN. And then I kept looking. Jack Legion was with I think it was Brad Hicks that founded Jack Legion, and then he left it to somebody else, and then he went to Paddle and Fin, ended up being your co-host on the Reel Down. There was another gentleman, I think his last name was Perry, and I think it was called the Kayak Bass Fishing Podcast. But it wasn't like strictly KBF. And I remember listening to one of my favorite interviews was an interview he did, kind of like, I think it was like on a boat ramp or something, or the weigh-in with Guillermo Gonzalez. That podcast, it only had like maybe 10 episodes. It only lasted one season. But that podcast was a huge influence in my podcast. The way he would conduct the interviews, I thought it was great. It was just a shame that it lasted that season. And I want to say it was two brothers or something. It was last name Perry. I'm going to try to find it while I talk. But what's been like your least favorite episode one episode that you wish you could take back, if you had anything?
Dude, I have said some ignorant stuff.
Been there, done that, buddy.
If you do it for long enough, you're going to say a lot of things that you regret. It's easy for people. I think people who are easily offended are going to be easily offended no matter what you say. And people can take, like, I remember saying a joke about Ken Wood. I mean, I'll say his name. I don't care. But, because we met at the Guntersville, the KFL tournament where we beat them. We won the championship against them, so I feel good about that. But no, he had taken something I said as a joke. I said like, "Oh, Ken Wood, I've heard a lot about that guy," like it was a joke, like literally light. I don't understand how anybody else could have taken what I said as any other way than how I intended it as a joke. It was like it sounded like I was joking, and he didn't take it that way. So, but I'm sure I've upset a lot of other people, he just made it known, like, and I even tried to apologize to me. He didn't accept the apology because I was like, yeah, that's crazy, man. I wasn't trying to insult you by any means. And I tried to apologize. He didn't accept it. And, okay, that's fine. We can do that. And so I think people are easily offended. People are going to be easily offended. So you're going to upset some people. It just is what it is.
Dude, that's life, man.
Yeah, you can't get along with everybody. And whenever although a tiny public figure, whenever you get on the internet and spew, you're going to upset some people. I don't really remember any other time that I intentionally try to upset somebody. Like I never try to upset anybody, but I have definitely upset some people. So,
yeah, I don't. That's one of the things, and you and I, when Paddle and Finn, I remember doing a podcast that it's one of those things where you might at some point. One of my favorite podcasts that I've listened to, and it's kind of boring because the host is kind of stoic, but it's Lex Friedman. I think it's Eastern European guy that does great interviews.
Russian.
But so when he interviewed, like his intro used to be that I'm gonna say what I feel respectfully. I am not gonna sell out my opinion. And I'm putting in my own words what I say, but I'm not gonna sell my opinion because of my relationship with somebody, because of the power, the likability, or the influence that person has. I'm going to call BS when I think it's BS. I've done it. I've gone into episodes. You know this, Dan. There was one, controversial episode in Paddle and Finn that, it created a stir. But I was like, and it almost cost me friendships with other people. But I was like, at some point when you do this podcast, and you tackle there's things that there are times where you're like, okay, I'm not gonna follow the clickbait. I'm not gonna talk about something just to get followers or just to get a reaction, just to get popular that way. But there are sometimes controversies that happen that you have to weigh it in. It's like I've always said, like there's been. Every season there's going to be more than one or two people, like more than a dozen people are going to get DQ'd or going to have fish DQ'd. Most of them are by accident. Gene Jensen went through it. Christine Fisher has gone through it. Jordan Marshall has gone through it. Russ Snyder has gone through it. When I see those things, I don't address it because for the most part, it's the anglers taking responsibility. Wasn't that was trying to cheat. It was just miscommunication or something like that. I'm not going to search that clickbait, but every now and then something happens that it divides the community and people see it in different ways. And that's where I feel like, all right, I'm going to interject when I feel like there's a obvious absence of information that people are making an informative opinion and it's dividing the community. And I try to be objective about it and say, okay, this is what happened. This is why this decision, or this is what was the end result. And sometimes I'll give you my opinion, whether I agree with it or not. You're going to have people close to you that might see it differently, that actually might be at the center of that. And you're not trying to disperse them or how do you say this? Disparage their persona or their reputation, but you just see it in a different way and it creates tension. I've had that. I felt like at some point I almost lost a good friend because of it. Thankfully, we were able to talk things out. But I think the way you do it is by, and I've mentioned this on the podcast, is address the issue. Don't attack the person. Even if you feel it's warranted, just don't attack the person. Don't call them names. Give them respects. Give them their flowers when, if you can. But just say, this is why I disagree. And state your reasons or why it happened or why that decision was taken. But not necessarily without attacking the people, without calling names, without insulting each other. I think that's the safest way to do it. But you're right. Going back to it, there are times where you're going to have to decide, am I going to talk about this? Is this something that should be addressed? Because if not, it's going to fester. Or, you and I had this on the podcast when before Steve Owens was on Bassmaster Kayak Series, and it was won by Jon Stewart. I never attacked Jon Stewart, but I did express my feelings to how the trail was run. And I'll say it again, it was run very, very ineffectively and mediocrely. And it shows in the attendance. Like, people were just like 30, 35 people. And it's crazy to think the Bassmaster Kayak Series at some point only had we're averaging 30 people because of the way it was run.
Yeah, we had him on the old podcast, and he was not a serious person who was serious about kayak fishing.
Exactly.
He went on KBN, he went on our show, and he was not. This is how we do it.
And some stuff that was a little.
This is how we do it. You're lucky to have a series. Shut up.
Yeah,
but it's also really easy. It's easy for us to have an opinion, and I mean, everybody has an opinion. But then whenever people, there was one situation with Steve Owens, who everybody loves Steve. Steve is the best, and probably the reason why I initially joined the native team back in the day is because him and Ryan were on it, and they were two people that I looked up to. And then there was a time whenever they went designated launches, and I really felt like that was.
Oh, I remember that show.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, and maybe that was really the only choice that he had to make it a more legit sport. But it made it took away a lot of the paddlers now had to motor. They couldn't just paddle, and I had a strong feeling on that. But whenever he's.
But you never attacked Steve Owens, and me.
Yeah, but
Steve and I talked, and he was not happy with the episode. But it's but he understood. You never disrespected him. You just had strong opinions of what the decisions that were taken, and obviously Steve is going to take it not personal, but he's going to have strong feelings because he's the head of
Yeah, I mean, whenever you have an opinion against him, and he's making money in the sport, and that's his livelihood.
Yeah.
I understand that, and he never said anything to me. I mean, good for him that he could accept a challenge of a different opinion and not. It just shows how big of a person he is. Yeah, how big of a person he is, because he knew it wasn't intentional, but he's strong enough, in his own manlyhood that he's not going to be. He doesn't feel like he's being struck down because somebody else has a differing opinion. But that man's trying to make money in this. This is his job.
It's a livelihood, yeah.
Yeah, so whenever you say something against a decision he made, I think those are the times whenever I really feel, it's tough to have an opinion, especially whenever it's somebody you respect so much,
Yeah, and that's part of it. That's kind of I wouldn't say burden, but that's part of the business we choose. Either at the end of the day, I want to be able to sleep at night. Not that this is the biggest thing. This is not what defines my life. So it's not like I'm going to lose sleep over it. So let me walk back that comment. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to say, am I being true to myself? Or am I selling out because I want to have this close relationship with this influencer who's going to help me, or with this tournament director, which is going to help me? Or am I having an opinion because am I going to sway my opinion based on what I can get out of it is what I never want to do. I always want to be honest with myself. And again, you can be honest with yourself without attacking the person that you may be disagreeing with.
That's my view on it. I still see that as like a line in the sand of where our sport changed. Like, and maybe that's why some of the success of where the sport turned more professional, which Bassmaster, if anybody is going to do it, it should be them. Yeah. I get it, but I think maybe that might have opened the door for somebody like Drew's Kayak Adventure Series, where
exactly it actually did.
Yeah, like we're going back old school. We're going to have fun. You're going to be able to, to drag your kayak anywhere you want to. You'll be able to get out and wade. It was a strong decision for Steve to make, and he, looking back, he probably had to make that decision, but it left it's definitely a line in the sand of where our sport changed.
And I think that like that year when Steve and AJ both, Hobie did it too, right? So the two premier trails locked in
KBF
native launches. When that happened, we didn't have the diversity in tournaments that we do now. Like, it's crazy how many different types of tournaments we have, teams, Drew stuff, the different lax rules there. I don't want to say lax rules, different rules that are more open to adventure, right? I mean, that's what his whole series is about. I mean, it's just, I feel like it's a progression of our sport, and we really don't know where it's going to go, because we talk about like the professional end of it. There's that, but there's also the end of it that everyone does, right? Or other people do, right? That maybe aren't professionals. So it's just very interesting how we went from designated launches and everything, because that year it seemed like everything was consolidating to like one rules.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really felt like things were getting very rigid. And then the following year, Drew comes out with his, and now we got the
KBF dropped out.
Yeah. Yeah. It just opened. I think it helped the diversity that we have now in the sport.
By the way, for those that are joining, again, if you want to take part in the giveaway, just do #giveaway in the comments section. You don't have to stick around till the end of the show. The winners will be announced at the end of the show. But if you can't stick around, you can just check. The episode is going to air on our podcast streaming platform on Monday. You can come back to Facebook or YouTube channel or our YouTube channel and, listen to the end of the episode. See if you won. If you did, you message me through whatever account you used. So I'll know where to send it. We're going to be giving out a rod from Douglas Outdoors, a $50 gift card from Mariner Sales, a couple of catch boards from Catch Outdoors, and a couple other things. So again, if you can stick around till the end, just put #giveaway now, and then you come back and listen to the episode either on the podcast on Monday or come back to Facebook or YouTube, wherever you watch it originally, and see if you won. We got a couple of people already signed up for the giveaway. So #giveaway, Facebook or YouTube or what is it? Or Instagram. So anyways, continuing. Now that we touched on that, like this wasn't part of what we were going to talk about, but I have to ask, now looking back at the rule changes, you and I, Dan, we did that episode that we talked about that didn't sit well with some people. My opinion didn't sit well with some people's. Yours opinion was completely different. Not completely different, but different from my. And same thing. It ended up being a polarizing subject. Not that we were looking to create any division. But looking back at it, let me ask you first, and then I'll answer. Now that you look back at the rule changes that were made, has your opinion changed on it? What is your opinion now of those rules?
I mean, I liked the rule. It benefited me because I wasn't Lance Coley, Drew Gregory, Jordan, like put in at some crazy spot way upriver. That was never my game. So, I was arguing an argument that I didn't even care for, so it wasn't a positive for me to argue for it. I think for bass, I think they had to do it to make kayak fishing and what they're, like this year, Steve went nationwide as far as he could. He really spread it out. He's really making it a trail, like real deal. We're going to be the professional trail. People from all over. This is what we're doing. And it's a great schedule. It would be very hard for most people to fish a lot of them. It just is. But I mean, that's to make it a legit what it is, and to have designated launches. I think they have to do it. Like I think that's what he had to do. So, looking back, like I can just be sad that's where we had to go, but I think it was the right decision.
I agree. I haven't changed my opinion on that. I think I still feel the same way, but I think it needed to be done. At the end of the day, it breeded a new tournament, the Kayak Adventure Series, which I understand that it divided because Steve Owens had to do what he needed to do to save the Bassmaster Kayak Series, which was, if he didn't improve the numbers, that trail would have been gone already. And then Hobie BOS is gone right now. KBF is gone. We wouldn't have any national trails in that aspect. He needed to make the changes he needed to make because it's the Bassmaster Kayak Series, and it is, there's a name that come as a professional organization, and when there's that much money involved, we're talking about $10,000. Around $10,000 when we reach 150 or 200 people in attendance, which is common now. You have to be a little bit more rigid on the rules to avoid people from trying to take advantage of gray areas, or make it more harder for people to get away with anything. So I get that, but with that, Kayak Adventure Series is born. Native Big Bass, No Limit Big Bass Power Hour also grew because that is, okay, this is more of a fun tournament than a very serious professional tournament. So the rules were needed. At the end of the day, at least going into 2025, I feel like it ended up being a good thing because now we have different trails that cater to, different aspects or different anglers. Some anglers, like Jeff Malott has said in Bass Nation, these are anglers that are bass fishermen that use a kayak because not that maybe they can't afford a boat or prefer not to deal with the hassle of a boat. So the kayak is secondary. It's being a bass angler, a tournament bass angler. That's their attraction. And then there's the hardcore kayak fishermen, skinny water guys, river guys that are more interested in the fun aspect, the adventure part of it. And the tournament is secondary, but if they can take part in a fun tournament that is more about coming together as a community and having fun, then that's where the Kayak Adventure Series comes in.
I don't know. I don't necessarily know about that because I think there's people that fish that are 100% as into kayak fishing as anybody else is, but they don't.
Not everybody.
Like the bass rules don't allow the type of fishing that their strengths are. So I mean, to me, it's a different. Not it's totally different. Yeah, it's different. So Drew can hang anywhere on any trail on the planet. So it's not a question of Drew. Can Drew still win Bass Series? Of course he can. He's freaking Drew. Yeah. Can the other guys who are the river guys, the river rats, the creek guys, they're just not going to fish bass now, and that's like you're still not. I'm not trying to argue this whole point again, but you're not going to get like the best live scopers and all the best creek guys competing against each other. Now they're separate. Yeah. Except for Drew, because it's what Drew does. So
he's one of the best at it. Yeah.
There's some people that are going to do both, right? I mean, you got Jody Queen, who's going to be doing both of them. Abby Abonanza is going to be doing both of them. So there's some different people who are going to be doing both of them. I just love the diversity, man.
Exactly.
I just feel like it's sparked, and it's getting to be more. I used to kind of, and I'm not a big team guy. I kind of just go do my own thing when I'm fishing. Even when I launch with people, I'm like, yeah, let's go fish together. We launch, and I end up freaking a mile away, doing my thing. But it's awesome to see that we have this diversity and it's successful, right? Yeah. Drew's first year, his numbers I thought were really good.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, no, for his first year, it's really good.
First year and something new and different, And I get why we had to go to the designated launches, And one thing from a tournament angler's point of view that I think gets overlooked a lot in the discussion is how much time it saved.
Yeah.
I mean, because these were all lakes I've never been to. Usually it'd be a lot of lakes I haven't been to. And just page around the lake looking for launches. And I have to do it 2 or 3 times just to get most. And I wouldn't even get all of them,
And it definitely seems like it was a more even playing field because you, before designated launches, you felt like, man, I could not know where this secret launch is on public land, no matter how many apps I use. And I'll never be able to do it as good as I'll never be able to get some places before somebody else. So it let for traveling, I feel like it really evened it out for sure.
Yeah. It really helped. It did. And it actually opened up and spied out some launches maybe you wouldn't necessarily see on Google Maps, Steve put some little tiny launches in there, where there's 2 cars maybe can fit, maybe,
I've shown up to a couple of those. There's 20 cars, and it's like,
yeah. Where it gets around. I know, Dan, you did the
KFL.
Why do I keep saying KBL?
It was KBBT, and then it became
that's what I combined it. Yeah. And KBBT was the bracket thing, which I thought was good.
Yeah, Kayak Bass Team Series, or is that the new one?
I think that's the new one, right?
That's the new one.
Yeah. So after KFL, Greg Nosar left, and then some other people took it over. I think it was
Well, anyways, let's get to the point. Are you
Brad Pace took it over?
Yes. So, are you gonna do the kayak team or team kayak series this year?
I'd like to do Gunnersville.
All right.
Because that's right time for Gunnersville. I don't necessarily want to fish Gunnersville in June as much as whenever Native's going to be there, but it could be if you like fishing offshore. Fishing the Native event, that's whenever they first get offshore. If you like fishing deep on Gunnersville, that would be legit for sure. But yeah, the team series, I've talked to somebody about fishing that event, hopping in.
All right, so you already got a part. It's a 2-man thing, right? It's a two.
Yeah.
2-man. Well, not 2-man, 2 angler partner, I should say.
And I said before, I learned more in the KFL, more than I did anywhere else. The 2 years I did it, because it would be, whenever we did Coosa Kingfishers, the people I was fishing with were unbelievable. But whenever you go out on the water, like let's say we all stay in a house and, we talk afterwards and we're like, it's like we're giving each other information. That's, that's cool. But you're not given the kind of information where I want you to do well I want you to do as good, if not better than me. But whenever I could see 3 or 4 people fishing in different parts of the lake using all different techniques, you will never learn something quicker because you find out exactly what they were doing, exactly where they were at, everything, nuts to bolts, the whole deal. And that just seeing that information, 100% that information, because our team communicated so well, it was just eye-opening. I've never learned more, for sure.
That's a good environment.
Yeah.
Simple Fishing, it says, sorry I'm late, dude. You don't have to apologize, but you can enter in the giveaway. Just do # giveaway, and if you can't stick to the end of the show, don't worry, you can come back and listen to the show and see if you won. If you did, just message me or I'll message you. So yeah, Simply Fishing, just do hashtag giveaway. We're giving away a rod, a gift card from Mariner Sales, which you can use online as well, and a couple of catch boards and some other small stuff. But Steve Thorkveen, I got you on the giveaway. I'm going to add you there. The rest of you that put hashtag giveaway already added you. So we'll do that at the end. So let's talk about our goals for 2025. Kurt, let me start with you. What's your goal?
Are you fishing, Kurt?
What
are you fishing, Kurt?
Yeah,
what am I fishing?
Goals in the podcast and fishing tournaments, and goals for yourself. Like, what do you want to improve on as far as kayak bass fishing?
I am pulling back a little bit from doing the tournaments like I was a few years ago, right? Because I would drive 16 hours, and I'm just pulling back from that. My wife had a little scare with some cancer coming back. It didn't.
Oh,
sorry, man.
It's all good. It didn't come back, but we had the scare and we spent a bunch of money on tests and stuff, and it just made me kind of reevaluate last year, like how much time I was spending at home. I'm going to be traveling around doing some stuff, and really that's my goal. That's my goal for 2025, man, is to find a better balance between being real hardcore traveling and hopefully find a little bit of success too.
Dan, what about you? You last 2 years, I don't know this year, but the 2022, you took 2 AOYs and ended up being runner-up on a third tournament over there in Alabama. Yeah. So you're kind of like a name over there, right? Like famous.
Well, last few
people
years.
ask for your autographs in both pictures with you.
Last few years were good. I still never won AOY for my local club though. That's the most it's like impossible to win. I just can't do it. This year I just want to have fun. Like I am literally just going to fish events I want to fish. Not like, oh, I'm going for AOY or I need to fish all of them in this series. I'm just going to have fun this year whenever I do, the tournaments I do fish. I will give a shout out to, we have a Cinco de Mayo tournament. I think this year it's April 27th on Smith Lake. It's the Alabama Kayak Anglers Tour and a regional with like 4 clubs. It's on Smith Lake at the end of April. Year before last, I won it. Last year, I got second, although I lost 4 fish in the last 30 minutes that would have won it. But that event has become my favorite event of the year. Smith Lake during that time is just absolute fire. And be looking for a national trail coming there in 2026 during that time. Yeah, well, like coming to, like I've been trying to get people to come during that time because not just because I enjoy fishing, it's just fire. Like before the wake boats get out, Smith Lake in the spring is just so much fun. That place has got so many fish. It's a blast, and it's such a beautiful lake. It's one of those places where you go out like Dale Hollow, because I know you've been to Dale Hollow. You go out there and it's like, oh, I'm going out here to fish. And then you get out there and you're like, whoa, this place is beautiful, So it's Smith Lake, just great lake.
Any techniques that you're trying to get better at? Anything that you're like, man, I want to work on this technique, become better at it, anything like that in your New Year's resolution, Kurt?
Alabama rig, honestly.
Really?
Ooh,
I mean, I've had a little bit of success with it in the past, but I would like to just dial it in, man, and feel like I have a really good understanding of it.
I got
my buddy Chuck kills with that. He just put something on there not too long ago, but
yeah, I had him on when I did the Alabama rig one, and
that's right.
I've got like 4 of them set up, and I just want to get better.
That's one of those baits. I'll tie it on and I'll bring it and I'll throw it. I just have never gotten the confidence on it where I'll throw it out a few casts and I'm like, I'm going to do something else.
That's exactly how I am with it.
Yeah,
I'll catch 1 or 2 fish with it.
and then I'll be like, I didn't catch any for forecast.
Yeah,
I'm to switch.
Jamie
that's
says,
the deal with it, right? You got to keep fishing it more, and you got to stick with it.
yeah.
It's one of those type of baits.
The right time of the year, though. I mean,
yeah.
it's the deal, though.
Jamie says you were on him and Smith last year. I'm assuming it's talking about you, Dan. Also, I got on Instagram, Albert Canyon Lake, Texas Angler says, my goal is getting more into saltwater fishing and hopefully hook my first over the slot redfish. Getting an over the slot redfish was, I think it should be on everybody's bucket list.
I am from the coast and I have never put my kayak in saltwater. And I'm from Biloxi. Like, I grew up fishing, but my dad, he just sold his bay boat. So now if I want to bring home any meat, whenever I go down there, I've got to bring my kayak and go actually put it in some saltwater and catch some fish.
Simply Fishing says, Chuck and Dan are who I want to be when I grow up. Much respect.
I want to be Chuck whenever I grow up.
Chuck has been, for a second, I thought Chuck was going to be your co-host in the Advanced Kayak Angler, Kurt, because I know he's been on the podcast. And by the way, Chuck, thank you for supporting us and bringing your knowledge. I get feedback every now and then that I get to read, and I've gotten a lot of feedback about some of the information Chuck has shared. So, Chuck, thank you so much.
Yeah, Chuck's always welcome on, man.
Yeah, so I appreciate him.
He did fish for Auburn, though, so we didn't know each other, but we fished. I was at Montevallo and he was at Auburn at the. He was kind of at the latter end of whenever I was there, though. So.
One of the things that I feel like I want to get better on, like for like a couple of years, I got so enamored with, and who wouldn't, with chatterbaits, that I was doing so good at it that I think it stunted my growth as moving forward, as growing. I was catching more fish than I was previous to that, but then I was so like tunnel vision into like I'm only throwing I found myself only throwing chatterbaits, and there would be times where I was like, no, let me tie another bait, but I was always going back to a chatterbait. And last year I kind of tried to stay away from it. Of course, you're going to use it when on grass and stuff like that, but maybe not in tournaments, but also when I'm out fishing recreationally and trying to improve my game, trying to do other stuff, especially when I'm fishing in grass. Like, yeah, chatterbait's not the only one. One thing, Cattle Lake, that last stop at the Bassmaster Kayak Series helped me a lot, because the chatterbait was on fire in practice. I think that's how Gene Jensen, or Abby Abundanza, one of those guys that went close to the top, was catching him on chatterbaits. And pre-fishing was great with chatterbait. I mean, I was getting so much bites and quality bites that I figured, that I might actually end up getting a check. By tournament time, it wasn't working, and I started flipping on grass, which I didn't think I was good at. And I'm still not great at. By the way, one of the most listened episodes that we had last year was the one, Kurt, that you did about punching grass with Russ Snyder and Christine Fisher. Very popular show. So anybody that's listening or watching, you can go back, check our go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, whatever podcast streaming platform you used. And I think it was kind of late 2024 or somewhere around October. It's a great episode. Russ Snyder and Christine Fisher, always great information. Go ahead.
Sometimes whenever that chatterbait, like that bite dies down, go to like a skinny dipper with a 6-inch.
It's Alabama terms that you throw on me so much.
No, Reaction Innovations, skinny dipper. Yeah, it's a swim bait with a 6-aught weighted 3/16 swim bait hook without the chatter. It's like a chatterbait, a silent chatterbait. Yeah. Whenever they get off the chatterbait, try throwing that, and sometimes you can get them same fish in the same area. They don't want all the chatter whenever it's conditions change. Or whatever.
No, I started using the the second day of that tournament, I was like, I'm flipping punching grass for better or worse. Because I caught my limit late on day 1, and I'm like, this is the only thing I'm going to do in day 2. Turns out you do that for 8 hours on a 1 ounce of bullet weight, man. The next day, your shoulder, I mean, my shoulder was hurting for like almost a week. I mean, it took me 3 days. Finally, I can lift my shoulder, my elbow above my shoulder. Like, it hurt that bad. But that got me into like, all right, whenever you find a bike, if you're confident with it, just stick with it. Even, there were times where it's like, I've been 2 hours, haven't catch anything. Do I switch? Do I not switch? And that's the beauty about this. It's like there's no one set of rules. You can't say never switch, stay with it, stick with it. That might work sometimes. Other times you'll be like, no, if it's not working after an hour, switch to something else. No, sometimes the bite is just gone through a lull. It doesn't matter what you throw. It's not going to, so keep doing what you're doing. It'll pick up. It's never, my point is there's not one set of rules. But what I kind of want to work on is trying to, just like late in the season, I started getting good at punching grass. Find something else that I can maybe add to my arsenal when it comes tournament time. Oh, by the way, Lincoln says that was season 2, episode 78, I think. So for those that want to listen to that episode, thank you, Lincoln, for that. If you want to listen to that episode. Other than that, are you guys? I'm not doing any national trails other than maybe the Kayak Adventure Series. I wanted to do the Bassmaster Kayak Series, but it turns out this year they're not really going to roll. I've been spoiled last 4 or 5 years. Either the Hobie S or the Bassmaster has come really to my backyard. Lake Fork or Possum Kingdom, which is 1 hour, 2 hours. This year, Steve Owens hated me, and the closest one he got is Toledo Bend. It's not even cattle, and I have to drive like 5 hours. And then the other one would be 10 kilo, which is about a 5-hour drive. And right now, I think the prices for the entry fee just went up from like $250, now it's $267. Not holding it against Steve. I know inflation, is affecting us all. But I just right now, this year would be a lot more expensive than it was last year when I had one that was like an hour drive and the other one was 4-hour drive. So probably the Kayak Adventure Series is the only one that I'm going to be doing this year as far as national. And I'm going to focus on the Texas Bass Nation. See if I can qualify for the Bassmaster Kayak Series Championship in 2026 through the local Texas Bass Nation. So we'll see. Any goals as far as were you qualifying for the Bassmaster Kayak Series, winning AOYs, anything like that?
I got no aspirations for that. I'm the AOYs pretty much out of my. It's just written off.
I mean, you ended up 5th in the Hobie BOS standings a couple of seasons ago. I mean, you're more than capable of winning AOY.
Man, it is so hard to win AOY. People really don't understand like how many times things have to go right, how many times you have to have the best day of your life in one season to make the AOY. Because you have to beat Russ Snyder. you got to beat Christine Fisher. You got to beat. Just go down the list.
You went minor back-to-back TOCs. Hobie BOS AOYs.
Yeah. It's just the caliber of anglers that are now fishing this is just incredible, So I have no aspirations, or I'm not even going to try, just because of just how logistically and how things are lining up. It's undoable for me.
Any like local trails that you can qualify for the Bassmaster Kayak Series Championship?
The 2 local trails that had it, I haven't heard from them if they're going to have any qualifiers. So I really don't know if the local guys. I am going to hit Bass when it comes to Dale Hollow. I'm going to hit it there. That's like 4 hours away from me. And I got some history on that lake. I got some good history on that lake. So
that's going to be a good stop, Dale Hollow.
Oh yeah, that's going to be everybody from Tennessee is going to do it. I have a feeling like every single guy who has a kayak in Tennessee is going to be at Dale Hollow.
What about you, Dan? Since you already won multiple AOYs in one season, what if your lofty goals? Like, how do you, I don't know.
I have none.
None, really?
I'm just going to have fun. Really, my goal this year is to rely on a jerkbait less.
Really?
Yeah.
That's one bait I want to get better at, actually.
A jerkbait?
Yeah.
Well, guys, I mean, very shortly there will be an episode.
There you go.
On Advanced Kayak Anglers on jerkbaits. Like, we'll be taping it Tuesday.
Season 1, we had a good episode with Armando and Kurt, who actually won in Cattle Lake with a jerkbait, of all places, to win with a jerkbait Cattle Lake. That's crazy.
It's such a good bait. I just, like, last year it broke. I don't know. I've tried everything. It really broke my heart a few times, but it helped me so much too. But there's a few times where I wish I would have thrown a spinner bait or just not relied on that in a wacky rig so much. Like, I just kind of want to pull back and throw some other baits too, right? Because those are like my 1-2 punch, you know.
And a jerkbait, man, it works year round.
Yeah.
It works so many places. You can switch to a soft weedless ones. I mean, it's kind of. I spent one whole year when I was kind of getting into fishing. I spent a whole year, and I almost threw nothing but the jerkbait just to learn it really good through the whole season. And man, it's just like it's one of those lures that you can kind of get it to work everywhere.
Yeah.
No. Not if you're like me that know how to use it. It's funny because when I started kayak fishing, I would watch videos and I started throwing the jerkbait, and I caught some decent fish. I was throwing jerkbaits off the bank out of the Trinity River in downtown Fort Worth. And as soon as I started throwing the chatterbait, like everything else went with chatterbaits and wacky rigs. And I was like, and then I started throwing the jerkbait again. And I can't seem to find that magic that I used to have with the jerkbait. I think I've lost it. Says Lincoln says, what baits do you want to get stronger with? And says, and when can we look forward to an advanced angler episode from you? Not sure. Okay, so who's the question directed to, Lincoln?
Well, Kurt already said A-rig. So
A-rig, and what about you, Dan?
Play spinnerbait. Like I'm okay with one, but yeah, I think that's kind of like almost a lost bait for a lot of people now. Like it's one of those things where everything goes in certain cycles, and it's so down cycle that I don't think fish are seeing it as much as much anymore.
They're not like they used to.
Yeah. So I think
chatterbait.
Yeah.
In the springtime, everybody was throwing a spinnerbait, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like you see someone with a spinnerbait tied on, and it's
like, oh, he's the old school. But even even in the fall with like the triple blades and like I'd really like to get better at a spinnerbait. Like keep it in my hand more. I mean, I can throw it, that's fine, but I'm proficient at it. But I'd like to throw it a little bit more, sure.
Picasso's got a nice titanium one now.
Who?
Titanium wire, Picasso.
Oh,
so man, he can. It just doesn't get wrecked. Like you can just keep throwing it and throwing it and throwing it.
I was throwing this one. It's the Petite from Crusher Lures. It's the one Cliff Crochet throws it. And I throw War Eagles. I've got some Picassos and some Nicholas Lures, the Pulsator. But I really like that Petite one from Crusher Lures. I mean, it will catch the hell out some fish, but it gets wrecked so quick. Like it just gets destroyed. It's so thin. The wire is so thin that the action is phenomenal and the fish love it, but it just does not last. I mean, it's like buying a Megabass, jerkbait. It just works so good, but it just doesn't,
There's something about those thin-wired spinnerbaits, man, where they flex and they move weird. There's just something about those. I think they fish better.
Hammered blades, too. I really like hammered blades. I think I listened to a pro talk about it one time, and it kind of changed my mind of how it breaks up the light because it's reflecting different ways. It looks more natural because it's not one big giant
flash.
Yeah.
Tim Isaac says, "Did I ever tell you guys I hate spinner baits?" I can't agree with Tim. It's not that I hate spinner baits. It's like that's one of the baits that if I listening to podcasts, like everybody, well, use a Colorado blade, use a blade that has a Colorado blade that has a red, color on
in
it.
the spring.
It's like, how is it so complicated? Like, so I try to listen. Don't even get me on tactical bass, in which I love the guys, but when they break down spinner baits, I'm like, screw it, I'm not doing it. I'm overloaded with the more I learn, the less I know, kind of with spinner baits. So in that aspect, I agree with Tim Isaacs. I don't know why. It's just so much information on how to throw a spinner bait, and everybody is like, no, do this, do that, or it's like,
it's so situational.
I know, man. It's like, all I know is it's great when it's windy. But I don't have the time or the energy to start like, should I change the Colorado blade to a willow blade? Do I want to have a red accent on it? It's like it's windy. Okay, I'll throw it.
Don't throw one. I hope everybody feels that way. Don't throw one.
We have a good question from Clayton. Says, if you could go back to when you were first getting into bass fishing, is there a certain bait you wish you would have learned first, knowing what you know now? That's a great question, Clayton. I don't know. Let's start with you, Kurt. What are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't change a thing, honestly.
There's no baits that you wish you would have, when you started.
I learned them in the order I feel like I needed to learn them, honestly. And the baits that have made me a lot of money over the years are the ones that I learned first and that I have my most confidence in. And I just feel like, for me, it's all just played out. There isn't like one. There's always something I want to learn more, because I'm always a student of fishing. There's always a new lure. There's always something I can improve on. I'm not saying any of that, but as I discovered lures, I feel like for me and how I fish and how I've been successful fishing, they've just came at the right times for me. I've been very blessed and lucky that way. It's not by design. It wasn't by me going, oh, I'm going to learn how to fish and I'm going to pick this lure first because that's it was just blind luck.
What about you, Dan?
Wacky rig is life, man.
I wish I learned it before.
Yeah, like I spent one whole year because whenever I first got into fishing, Kevin Van Dam won the Bassmaster Classic behind the bridge at Lay Lake, 100 yards from my mother-in-law's house. The only bait I threw for a year after that was a red-eyed shad. There are not many people alive that's thrown a lipless crankbait more than I have, and I freaking love that bait. But a wacky rig, man, it saved me so many times. It just, it's won me so much money. It would have to be a wacky rig.
That's a good one. I think, to me, soft plastic swim baits, I wish I would have spent more time throwing it. If I was throwing a soft plastic, it was a Texas rig or a Senko.
But when you say soft plastic swim baits, do you mean the big 6, 7, 8, 9, 10?
No.
Or do you mean like the 3 to 6?
No, just like a Kayak with a jig head. Keeping it simple. Those I wish I would have thrown more. I think I was at first, when I started, like most people, just like keep it simple. You want to catch fish, throw a Senko, a soft plastic, Texas rig, whatever, and you're gonna catch fish. Then the chatterbait comes along. I did drop shots a lot because, again, that was another, ironically enough, biggest bass that I've ever caught was on a drop shot, and I don't have the measurements or the weight. I just have the pictures, and I can tell you it was a stud. But back then I was bank fishing. I didn't even have a kayak, didn't have a measuring board, didn't have a weight scale. It was skinny. It was a post-spawn bass, so it wasn't like it was the weight wasn't really an issue. But anyways, so I wish I would be like a swim baits on a jig head. I think I would have enjoyed that if I would have done it more.
It's a killer. That's a killer one right there, man. Swim baits.
Yeah. All right. Wrapping it up for those that are watching. If you're tuning late, I got one more comment from Chuck. Says you don't work them, they work you. That's true. I lost the feed on my live on Instagram, so I know Albert, you made a comment, but I lost it. Anybody else that wants to enter the giveaway, we're about to do the giveaway. I've had this guys for over an hour. So hashtag giveaway. Again, we're giving out a rod from Douglas Rods, from the LRS lineup, a $50 gift card from Mariner Sales, which you can use online. And what else? A couple of catch boards and a couple of other items. So do hashtag giveaway. I got everybody that already put the comments on both Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So Brandon, I haven't had him. Let me add Brandon Huseman on it. While I do that.
Oh, Lord.
What? You don't like the guy? You don't like Brandon?
No, I like Brandon.
You like him? You cool dude? I hate to... I don't want this to take the whole night, but we did say we're going to talk about it a little bit without, attacking other people's opinions. Thoughts on, on what took place with the Hobie TOC, with the alleged, a fish that is apparently caught twice. What are your thoughts on it? Let's start with you, Kurt.
First off, it's just such a shame that drama had to come up on the last TOC.
Yeah. And
to take away from the efforts of everyone who was in the TOC. It's just really unfortunate. And I wasn't there. I don't know either one of these guys, but what I do know is AJ did everything he could possibly do to make it be a fair situation. And it's really unfortunate that it went the way it did. Maybe things could have been handled differently. I honestly don't know because, like I said, I wasn't there. It just kind of sucks.
What about you, Dan?
I think whenever you sign up for a tournament, like you're putting your faith in the tournament director that they're going to do their due diligence and do the best they can, that they're running a fair game. I wouldn't like it. I probably wouldn't have taken. I like Ryan. I had him on a podcast many times. Super great angler, unbelievably knowledgeable, super professional. I personally probably wouldn't have taken it social media because, I don't think there's a good outcome from that.
Yeah.
That's all I would say. I mean, did he like the way it went? No. Did they look the same to me? Scale pattern? Yes. But AJ and Steve are as good as they get. And if you put in your complaint at the end and it doesn't go your way, it doesn't go your way, man. What else can you do?
Yeah, first of all, I'm not gonna touch on whether it was the same fish or not. I'm not an expert on it.
Me either.
I'm a judge, so I'm not gonna play armchair Monday morning quarterback kind of thing or armchair quarterback. I'll leave that decision to the expert. What I would say is this is not like AJ took the final word and this is what AJ's decision. So I don't think AJ should be crucified for this decision if you don't agree with the decision. That's what I would say. It's a panel of that took that decision, and from what my understanding is, which I think it's the right way, it's the same approach as our legal system. A grand jury is going to have to decide whether you're guilty or not guilty unanimously, and if you can't come to an agreement, then it's a mistrial, whatever. You can't take away a fish of this magnitude, with the implication of TOC and the money, and it just being TOC, maybe like Garrett Morgan. I know Garrett Morgan.
Another great guy.
Yeah, another great guy, stand-up guy. Ironically, Garrett Morgan went through the exact same thing Ryan did at the end of the Bassmaster Kayak Series a couple of years ago, where the decision that was taken at the end after the appeal was not the one he wanted, and it affected him. But he didn't took to social media about it, And me and Garrett talked about it, and he was consummate professional. He's like, I accept the decision. It's not what I would have. He still felt like it wasn't right, but he accepted everybody. He respected the competition, whoever won, and he respected the decision by Bassmasters. He didn't go into social media to complain about it. So Garrett Morgan has been through that. Garrett Morgan is a stand-up guy. I want to make something clear. I by no means think that Garrett Morgan cheated on this. At worst, he caught the same fish twice. At worst, but yeah. I can't. I wasn't there, so I can't say, I put my life on the line on this opinion, but I'd be surprised. And I don't think Garrett at all tried to cheat, like some people are mentioning on social media. That I assure you did not happen.
Anybody who fishes, anybody who fishes that many tournaments, who's that into the sport, who has sponsors, who has that much on the line, you do it once, you're done. You're out of the sport. You're out of fishing. There is no way Garrett, for how much that man loves fishing, would do that. Like you're saying, were they the same fish? I have no idea, but he doesn't either. But it's not up to him. He submits a fish. If they're the same fish, it gets denied. That's not up to him. So no matter what, it's not in his court. So I truly don't think anything falls on Garrett in that situation. So,
and also going back to the decision again, it was a panel decision. I veered away from my comment that I was going to make. Same thing from what my understanding was, the panel could not agree on whether it was the same fish or different fish. If you can't get 100%, like if you're not 100% sure beyond of the reasonable doubt that this is the same fish, you can't disqualify it. You just can't. So it's just common sense. And first of all, I'm sure there's some legal aspects to it that that could have been taken by Garrett Morgan had that fish disqualified, because you have to prove that without 100% doubt. If a panel could not come together, a panel of I don't know how many people, but it was, I think it's something like 5, couldn't come together in a decision, then the decision stands. It's like replays in NBA and Major League Baseball and European soccer, which is like, what's the decision? What's the call on the field? All right, let me see if we can find enough evidence to overturn that call. And if it's not, if you can't be sure, then the call stays what it is. I have nothing against Ryan for submitting a protest. If I would have been Ryan, I would have submitted a protest. I look at the fish that it is similar enough that warrants a second look, and it warrants somebody protesting, especially somebody's in second place. That's not a problem at all. What I don't agree, and I respect Ryan, I've heard nothing but great things about it, but I think maybe he was given the wrong advice as far as coming forward with this on social media, especially almost 3 months later. There's nothing good that's going to come out of it.
Yeah, that's the same way I feel. I don't think it helped him. So he already lost. He already lost, and then he lost again to me in my book. So
exactly. Again, no disrespect on Ryan. I don't know him personally. From what I heard, he's an amazing guy. Definitely more complicated.
It's just such a shame, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because now he got second, right? And let's say it wasn't the same fish, right? Let's just, for argument's sake, he gets second, and now there's a shadow over his second place at the TOC. That's a really good place at a very hard event, and now there's a shadow over it, and now there's a shadow over first too. And he didn't mean anything. He's not. Yeah, I mean, wrong. So it's like now there's a shadow over both of them. It's just such a shame, man.
The best case scenario is that people would think that he got like first with an asterisk, but to go from like the strategy to do this, to go from second to first with an asterisk isn't, and you still lost. You're still not going to get the money. It wasn't worth it wasn't worth
nothing.
Taking it to social media.
Best case, there's no best case scenario out of this. That's why I think he might lose. Maybe somebody benefited from throwing this into the social media realm and gaining traction for their channel, and he was given I'm not saying Ryan, but Ryan got the bad advice of somebody that I don't know, because
they got a lot of views.
I got a lot of views, and so whoever capitalized that, good for them. I don't think it helped Ryan.
Didn't help anybody. It didn't even help the sport.
And I'll be honest with you, when we talk about when Garrett Morgan, when that whole thing happened with the challenge, I talked to him. It's like, and there was talks like, you want to come back, you want to talk and give your version of it. And we both and I, Garrett, decided there's nothing good. The decision's taken, the appeal was listened to, the decision was reversed. Let's leave it like it is. There's no point. At that point, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna give out more information that it's already out there, because everything's out there,
and it won't change.
To go back, exactly, to go back on it is just to create division, and that's not what my podcast is about. And Gary Moore, the same thing. Like, yeah, that's not what I'm about. So he's been on the other side of this as well. That's the point that I'm trying to make. But it is what it is. I don't think Ryan should get any flack or any hate on social media. I'm sure some people are gonna, resort to expressing their opinions and maybe say unsavory things about him as a person, which maybe they know him or they don't know him personally. I think that's unfair. I don't think he deserves any hate, but at the same time, I think that should have just be left out. If the decision was taken, there's nothing to gain out of this.
Yeah.
And again, and no hate. The only thing that I wanted to say, and you guys don't have to comment. I know some of you have ties with Hobie, and I don't want you to feel like you need to express your opinion that may not agree. But I will say this as somebody that's not tied to Hobie. I would like, Hobie Bios is already gone, so it's mute point. But if it does come forward, and this goes for any national trails, I think transparency is important, because, and I think even Garrett would have appreciated that Hobie BOS came out and said, this is what we look for. This was the panel that we chose. This was the decision they came to, and this is what we do to make sure that there was no cheating involved, and that try to make sure as possible that this is, or it's not the same fish. And you don't even have to go to a podcast. Bassmaster were dealing with Pickwick. They just sent a press release when Drew Gregory was reinstated. That's all you need to do. And I would have liked to see that. Again, Hobie BOS is done. But if it would happen on the Bassmaster Kayak Series or any tournament of national relevance, is like, if something like this happens, just be transparent. Just say, hey, a formal complaint was made. We investigated. This was the parameters of the investigation, whether it was like, we chose a panel of this judges, or we did a lie detector and we looked at this evidence. The conclusion of our finding is this, and leave it out there. That way people don't speculate, well, what did they do with this? Did they use a lie detector? What was the panel? Who took the decision? I think sometimes that approach of like, let's not talk about it, eventually it'll go away, it's not always the right thing. Because what it does, it breeds people want answers. And if you're not giving it to them, they'll go make their own conclusions. And then this debate starts rolling on social media. I would suggest to anybody that's running a trail, be transparent. This is the decision, and this is why, and this is the resources that we use to investigate. And that way, just people, at least there's still going to be people that talk, but at least you appease the masses and saying, okay,
they're going
something was done. And this is what it was done. So that's my final thought on it. Anyways, I got one more East Texas yak, and let me add them to the list. And I think that looks with that week. East Texas.
My kids' stuff here.
Yakking. That's the last one on the list. So we're gonna go. So we got 2 catch boards. That we're gonna be giving away. So let's start with the first catch board, see who the winner is. How do I even do this? You see, in the interest of transparency, I'm going to share my screen. so this won't become an issue on who won. I haven't done this in such a long while. Share screen. Share screen. Here it is. Wheel of random pickers. All right. Let's see. This is for the first catch board. Tim Isaacs. Tim, you won the catch board. I think Tim,
Bob.
So Tim, you were on Instagram. Just DM me, send me the details on where I can send you the catch board. And congratulations. Second catch board. Let's see. Steve, once again, I think you commented on Facebook. So if you're still there, send me a DM. If not, if you come back and listen to it, send me a DM. We'll send you the next catch board. $50 gift card for Mariners sales. That's going to be the other one. Actually, I should remove Tim. Well, Tim, if you forgot to remove his name. So if you come back again, I'll just have to do it again. East Texas Yakking. You got a $50 gift card for Mariners sales. Same thing. Send me a DM on Instagram. I think you commented on Instagram with your address, so I can mail that to you. It'll be next week because with the ice here, with the ice here, I'm not gonna drive to get.
It's hitting tonight here in Alabama.
Yeah. So, and last but not least, we got an LRS model rod from Mariners sales. It is like you can pick out of like I think 20 rods or so. Whoever wins, I'll send you the list of the rods you can pick.
Put my name on there.
And then sure I'll add you. No, it's no. You didn't do hashtag giveaway. So let's see. Last but not least, let's see who wins the rods from Douglas Outdoors. Matt Page. Matt, congratulations. You win the rod for LRS. Again, send me a DM and I'll send you the list of rods available. And then if you you can decide which, for what technique you want your rods. So that's it, guys. Any last words before we head out?
Up with hope, down with dope.
That's a new one.
I like it. I'm gonna go with what Dan said.
Well, everybody that commented, we do appreciate it. Congratulations to the winners. Again, if this is the first time tuning in, we do have a live show every Thursdays, and we also have the Advanced Kayak Angler podcast. It's not a live show, but it does air. I think it's going to be. Did we move it to Thursdays, or was just this week that we did Thursdays?
Yeah, it was just this week. Sure.
All right, so next week
it might change.
Yeah, usually it'll be
we'll get it worked out here in the next couple
Wednesdays or Thursdays. Yeah. So again, thank you for tuning in, everybody. Thank you again, Dan. We wish you the best, man. If you ever want to come back to being a podcast,
not going anywhere.
So
I'm still fishing.
I know, but as far as podcast goes, if you ever want to come back, you have a home here.
That's right.
Yeah, I'll bring my hot takes.
Kurt, again, thank you so much for joining me as a co-host. Keep an eye out for the next. What's the next episode for the Advanced Kayak Angler? Jerkbait. So looking for that one airing next week. So, and for the live show next week, we'll have Steve Owens to talk about the Bassmaster Kayak Series live from Lake Havasu. So have a great night, everyone. Peace out, and wear your PFDs.
See you guys.
Later.
Later, taters.